Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we're going to dive into book two of the Dark Promises series by M. James. Now, if you haven't listened to the first book in the series, that review is going to be listed down below in the description section. So once you finish that one, come and join us as we dive into book two, which is called Broken Promise. Sophia wakes up, she feels tubes, she smells disinfectant, and she realizes she's in a hospital. So the nurse is there and she's like, "Oh, good, Mrs. Romano, you're awake." For a split second, she's about to say, "No, my name's it's Ferretti." But then she does remember, "Oh, yeah, you did marry Lucas, so you are Mrs. Romano." So the first thing she asks is, "How is he?" And so the woman, of course, is thinking like, they just got married. She's concerned about her husband. It even shocked her that that was her first response. She justifies it by saying, "Well, he did throw himself on top of her. So he was trying to save my life. So it would only be normal for me to be concerned about him." So the nurse tells her, he's sedated. He had a shard of glass in his side. They had to surgically remove it. He's got bruises on his face, arms, and stuff like that, but he is gonna, he will recover. And she wanted to see him. So the nurse took her to go see him, and when she saw him, he was pretty pale and stuff, and that was really weird for her to see him like that. Again, he's sedated, so he wasn't alert. She does find out when she asks the nurse, how is everyone else, that Don Rossi's wife, Julia, is dead. Katerina is going to be okay. She just had like something, maybe minor. She's fine. Nothing major with her. However, Don Rossi is in critical condition. So much so they're not even sure he's really going to make it. So she goes back to her room. Of course, she's thinking about Katerina. She wants to go and see her. But the nurse is like, "No, like, even though you're going to be okay, you do need your rest." And so they wind up giving her a sedative to make her rest. She wakes up, and our boy Luca is sitting there waiting for her. I don't know how long she was out because I'm like, he was like whole ass sedated, when she left. So she must have slept for quite a bit of time. So she probably was a lot more tired than she thought she was. The first thing Luca says to her is, "Oh, good, you're up." And for a split moment, they felt, shall I say, to her, it felt like a real couple, like someone actually being happy that you're awake, and they have a slight conversation. He's brushing off kind of what happened because he's like, I'm good, He's like, "I've been shot a few times, things like that. It comes with the lifestyle." It freaks her out, and she thinks like, maybe she may have wanted to shoot him a couple times, nothing fatally, but after, having this little conversation, it's like, what happens, but yet sometimes to hear it makes it even more real. So I know that shootouts happen with the mafia. That that's happening. We've seen that, you know, whether you watch movies or if you watch documentaries, this type of stuff happens. But it's like if a person never says it, it's almost like it's not real. But when he says it, it makes it even more so real for her. And that's scary. But I'm like, this should all be real enough for you. Like, you don't have people try to kidnap you, girl. You have had guns drawn on you. You just survived an explosion. This should be pretty real. That, to me, shouldn't have freaked her out. I'm just saying. She blurts out to him, "Why did you jump on top of me?" And he was just kind of like, he didn't even fully know what to say. He was just kind of like, "I just wanted to protect you." And she's like, "But that would have taken care of everything. Like, I'm the problem. It would have been gone. Like, you no longer would have had to be married to me. And, the whole widow thing would have went really well for you getting new women in your bed." And he tells her, I don't have a problem getting women in my bed. He's like, I can have you whenever I want. And she, of course, is like, you can't have me whenever you want. And then he tells her, that's fine, because in all honesty, you weren't that good. He said she was like a cold fish. I was like, oh gosh. She felt bad. Of course, she's a virgin. She's not going to know everything to do. Good grief. But I think as what we've seen with them is they're saying things to each other to upset the other person, to push the other person away. And so she doesn't want to admit that it hurt her that he said it. And he's not trying to admit that he likes being with her, because they're still playing this stupid game. They get a status update on Don Rossi. He has awoken, and he's still not out of the woods. There's like a major surgery he's got to do because his spine is completely screwed up. They don't even know if he'll walk again. Uh, don't know if his full capacities are going to come back. So he's going to have to step down. Luca tells her, he's now going to be the new Don. So Sophia and Luca go down to Don Rossi's room. They do the whole transfer of power thing. Um, so he's alert enough he can do that. He, even though he's, physically messed up, it's very clear that he wants war, right? Nothing has changed. This is what he wants. And so she sees Katerina in the room, and, you know, Franco's kind of cold with her. And we find out, Franco wasn't down there when the explosion happened. He was in his room hungover. So you already know he's suspect number one to me. Because I think there's a possible mole in this organization. And I'm thinking it's him. Because I feel like he's a weak link. And the fact that once he got Katerina to kind of agree to marry him, it's like he started acting real funky towards her, like not being as sweet as he used to be. So the fact that she just lost her mother, her father is in, the hospital, they're hoping he's going to survive, and you're being kind of cold with her is super fucked up. That's just beyond crappy. Luca now has the ruby ring. He's the Don, okay? So afterwards, they're heading back to the penthouse, and he tells her, like, basically he can't give her what he said, right? She was supposed to get her own apartment, but he's not able to do that. He's like, you've got to pretty much stay under my watch until the threat has been dissolved. We got to get to the bottom of this stuff. And so she, of course, is upset with this because that piece of hope she had of possibly getting out, it's like slowly dimming even more. That little bitty light she had is dimming because if she's got to stay with him under lock and key, how the freak is she going to get away from him? So that makes her sad. He told her that even though you were afraid of Don Rossi and what he would do to you, don't cross me. He's like, if you try and leave and escape, like, I'm going to make you regret it. And so now she's going to, argue with him. She doesn't know where it comes from. She gets so worked up. It's like all this stuff is not stuff she didn't really know. You know what I'm saying? But she just gets herself so upset and goes off on him. And at the same time, she wants to fuck him. So she doesn't understand this reaction because she's never had this reaction to anybody else. So he winds up picking her up, taking her to his bedroom, And he tells her from now on, you're going to share a bed with me. You're not going to that, you no longer have that fucking room. Like, get what, get your stuff, whatever you need, and bring it in here because this is now your room. And she, of course, tells him, I won't sleep with you, I'm not going to fuck you. And he just told her, I don't need a lazy lay. And she felt all hurt again. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, stop saying this stuff to him. Stop saying, not that you should just let him fuck you. I'm not saying that. But stop saying things to him that you know are going to hurt you. Okay? Whether you want to admit how you feel or not doesn't matter. But when you hear certain things from him, it affects you. So stop poking the fucking bear. Simple as that. She knows he's lying when he said like it was trash their first night because he started kissing her and she felt him lose himself. So she knows it's a lie, but it's like he's gonna keep acting like her pussy's trash, right? That's how he's gonna keep saying it to you. So again, just don't do that to yourself. Certain stuff, just don't say it for your own sake. So he tells her he's gonna have Karma and his assistants give her an iPad. Um, which is going to have all the information she needs to learn about the different families. He's like, you can't be embarrassing me. She didn't fight him on it. She's like, okay, she'll learn it. We switch to Luca's POV. He's left. He's gone back to the hospital to go see, well, the former Don. His real name is Vito Rossi. So Vito is pretty much like, have you started the war? Like, what's going on? And he, of course, wants to do it differently. Luca does. Um, Starting a war is going to cause problems with other families, with other Irish families and different ones. And he doesn't want to do that. So Rossi is trying to force him into doing it. Start saying stuff to him like, I didn't realize you're going to be weak. If I'd have known that, I wouldn't have given you my power. All this type of stuff. Basically trying to force his hand into doing what he wants. So basically, you clearly can see Rossi thought that Luca was going to be an extension of him, right? That he could still run the organization through Luca. Like, Luca's not going to go back on anything I tell him because Luca has been incredibly faithful to him for so long. So it's very upsetting to him that he's not doing what he wants. He wants his wife's death avenged. And Luca is like, I didn't think you loved her that much. Like, oh my gosh. And he says it's not about love. She was mine. Period. And so the fact that they did that, they took what was mine, they got to pay for it. So he leaves from there. He gets a hotel, has a drink. It's midday, takes a shower, winds up jacking off, thinking about Sophia, of course. Um, he's been lying to her, telling her that he doesn't like her, doesn't like her her sex or anything like that. He's been lying to her, but he's always seen like love and things like that as weaknesses. That's what he's been taught since he was a fucking kid. And so he's trying to put up this wall between them because it's getting harder and harder to concentrate on everything that's going on. Now he's got even more responsibilities placed on his shoulders, as well as trying to figure out what the fuck he got mentally going on with this damn woman. We switch back to Sophia. She's in the penthouse, but she's decided she doesn't want to learn this shit. She does not want to learn about these heads of family. She's tired of all of this. She's starting to think really dark, evil thoughts. She wished that the bomb would have taken out all of the men in the family, including Luca, even though she knows she doesn't mean the Luca part. But she just has this rage that she feels, and she just feels like she needs to allow herself to feel it. And so she says some things to herself, and she decides, you know what, she's going to get drunk. She's going to go outside on the rooftop. She's going to tan. She's going to enjoy this luxury penthouse. So that's what she does. She gets drunk. She orders sushi from a really expensive place. She goes to the movie room and she's thinking about the fact that if he's not home, he's probably at a hotel with some woman or multiple women, and it's pissing her off. And she knows it shouldn't bother her, but it does. So while she's watching whatever movie that's playing, she starts thinking about him, and she decides she's going to pull her pants down and she just straight up masturbates. And then she thought about it afterwards. Shoot, like, he's got cameras everywhere, you know? Then she's like, you know what? Fuck it. You know, it's already done. So she goes, takes a long shower, gets in the middle of the bed. At first, she was kind of like, which side would she get on? And then she just drifted off to sleep, of course, wondering, you know, her feelings for her husband are very complicated. And she's trying to uncomplicate them, and she can't do it. So she's trying to figure out how to do it. We switch back to Luca before he leaves out for the funeral. He calls Victor's, one of his right hand men, because you can't just call Victor, you know. So he is the head of the Russian mafia family. So he calls and talks to this guy. I think his name was Levin. And he's asking for a meeting. The guy's like, you took something that belonged to Victor. And he's like, what is he talking about? And the guy says, you know, I'm sorry, Luca's like, this can't just be about Sophia, you know? So we get a little backdrop and we find out that on top, there was always this point of contention because Giovanni had taken up a Russian wife. There were rumors that, I think her name was Irina, if I'm not mistaken, Sophia's mother, that she was already pregnant when Giovanni married her, and that the father of the child was supposed to, was the one she was supposed to marry, but because she didn't want to do it, he was going to basically take her out as well as the child. So then I'm like, okay, so now I want to know how old Victor is, because it's like, okay, is this Sophia's father? Like, I'm just trying to figure out what exactly is this whole tie. So the guy tells him, I'll see what I can do about setting up a meeting. That's it. He goes to the viewing. He's upset because he did know Julia. She was always very kind to him, especially after he lost both his parents. First, his dad got taken out, and then his mother offed herself when he was a teenager. And so Julia had always been a very kind person to him, and he is very upset, you know, that she got taken out, you know. But he is trying to find the most diplomatic way to do this. So Franco comes up to him, and he, of course, is like, you know, what's our next plan? What's the next move? And Luca is like, go take care of your fiance, you know, like, good grief, you know. But he acts like he doesn't want to go do it. And Luca knows he's going to have a little conversation with Franco, because he thought he would at least be a little bit more decent to Katerina, you know. And clearly he's not. So then Luca goes and talks with Katerina. They have a little chat. He tells Katerina, you know, talk with Sophia. She does know something about losing parents. And Katerina says, you do too. But he says, I'm not caring. Jesus. And so he's like, she'll be a better fit to talk to you. And Katerina says, you know, she's not mad with Franco. She did think he would be better than what she had anticipated. But, you know, at least he's not someone that physically harms her, you know. So in her eyes, it's still kind of lucky. It is what it is. He's just got, poor Luca, he's got a lot going on. And Sophia preoccupies like a ton of space in his mind. And that should be used towards, you know, stuff a little bit more important that affects a hell of a lot more people, you know. So they're at the funeral. They're lowering Katerina's mother into the ground. A black car on the hill pulls up. Pulls up. He knows it's Victor. He goes. Before he's about to go to talk to him, Franco comes up to him and he's like, "No, I got it. Stay with Katerina. Your girl. Your girl just buried her mother. Like, you need to be there. You know." And he realizes he's gonna have to be a little bit more harsher, more sterner with Franco. And he kind of wonders if he should have been that way with him all the while, because he's been like the complete opposite when it comes to Franco. Like, his father was stern with him, Don Rossi was stern with him, but he tried to shield Franco from that. And clearly, it's looking like that probably might have been a problem. He goes up the hill to talk to Victor, and we find out Victor is only like 7 or 8 years older than Franco, so he's like in his late 30s. So apparently, he cannot be the father of our girl. So that wasn't the right angle. He apparently lost his wife the previous year, leaving him with two young girls. And so they have a conversation, and we find out Victor wasn't going to sell Sophia, he was going to marry her. Um, but the Russians apparently don't treat their brides too well. And I'm kind of like, I don't know if y'all treat them the best either, considering how y'all talk. I don't know. I don't think y'all, I think you all maybe hide it a little bit better, but y'all seem to be kind of brutes too. So I don't know. I don't know. But that's what he says. And Victor says, you took her for yourself. And he can see that, you know, well, shall we say, Victor can see that old boy Luca's getting upset, right? This is pissing him off because he's saying stuff like, I should have been wanting her virgin pussy and all this type of shit. So he needs a son, apparently. And that's why he wanted Sophia, because he wanted a son. So Victor says to him, so what are you going to give me in order for this to stop? He's like, I need to know what I'm going to get. So Luca says he has his drug shipment coming in. Um, Victor says, I got money. I have drugs. He wants Katerina now. He wants Rossi's daughter. He tells him she's already promised to Franco. Victor doesn't care. He's like, she could possibly give me a boy. So he, of course, is saying to Victor, like, that's not an option. So Victor's like, we don't have anything else to talk about. So he just gets back in the car and he goes and he leaves. So then Luca goes back down to Franco and Katerina, and Franco's like, Frank is like, did you come to a deal? And he seems kind of weird. And that's again why I'm thinking Franco is like a weak link, like he's doing something, you know. He's probably ops. He's probably working with the enemy. That's what I feel when it comes to Franco. And he's like, no, we weren't. So you all are gonna have to get married a lot faster. We're gonna have to move the date up. I'm gonna have to get with Father Donahue to do it. And so Katerina's just like, okay, she trusts Luca. She's like, I trust you to take care of it. You know, he, of course, says, I don't want to war 'cause it's going to have a lot of casualties on both sides. And mostly he's worried about his side. And he's not trying to do that. Um, but the mere fact that Victor mentioned Sophia sent a rage over him. He was ready to fight the man right then and there when the guy even mentioned Sophia. Um, so, ugh, this is going to be a lot trickier than I think he would like to be diplomatic, but you can't be diplomatic with people who are set on they want something and they are not budging. We switch back to Sophia. She's in the kitchen. She hears the door open. Her name's called. Luca comes. Well, she comes out when he calls her name. He wants to know if she read up on the different bosses in the different cities. He starts to quiz her. She has not read anything. He can tell he's pissed. So he asks her, why do you do this? You know, why don't you know it? She says, well, the iPad didn't have a password. He says there was a note on it with the information. She's like, well, it must have fell off. So he's like, lie number one. Or number two or something, because he was counting her lies. Then he says, what did you do yesterday? She said, oh, I swam a little bit, on the pool deck. And she said, that's it? He's like, you didn't get drunk? And she just looked at him, shamefaced. And she realized he knows what she did in that theater room. And so he tells her, you lied to me 3 times. He's like, go upstairs. And she says, to where? And he says, you know where. And he says, put on one of those nice gowns, nice nightgowns. So she goes upstairs, but she doesn't put on a nice nightgown. She hadn't brought any of those into the room. Because she was like, what was the point? Because they're not fucking anymore. So she just put on her cotton stuff. So he's pissed when he comes in. He's like, I thought I told you to put on something nice. She says, I did. I think they're nice. He's like, so you're just going to keep lying? So he snatches his shirt, takes his belt, puts her wrist up, and tells her she's going to be punished. And he starts fingering her, and of course her body likes it. Of course she's already soaking wet by the time he even touched her. And basically he's making her edge, but he won't let her come. And then he says while he's fingering her how he saw her with her pussy out for everybody to see. He's like, is that what you wanted? You wanted my men to see you and see your pussy? And she's like, no, like pure, like, no, that was not her intent. And he's just fingering her. He wasn't touching her clit. But once he started touching her clit, she's about to spill all secrets. She's about to tell everything that's been going on in her head. And she's so close to begging him to fuck her. But then she's like, no, I can't. I have to fight it. Like, I cannot give in. And she's stubborn. They both are, to be honest with you. They're both very stubborn people. He says to her, like, whose pussy is this? He says to her, this is my pussy. And she wouldn't say it at first, but as he kept fingering her and started rubbing that clit again, she winds up yelling out, it's yours. Then he takes his dick out. And she's like, you said you wouldn't. He's like, I'm not going to fuck you. But he takes his dick and he rubs it on her clit. Girl about comes undone. And of course, he's not done with her. He stops right when she's about to come. And then he starts doing it again. And he makes her admit that she was thinking about him when she was touching herself. And she confesses it. She's like, I was thinking about our wedding night. I was thinking about when you had me bent over and you came on my ass, and how I told you I didn't like any of it, but I liked it. And he's like, so you have been lying to me, And she's like, please, just let me come, please. So finally he pulls back, takes one of her hands down so she can make herself come, and afterwards he takes his dick out, but he won't come in front of her. He tells her go take a shower, and while she's in the shower, she's crying. She feels bad because it's like he won't even let her watch. He won't let her watch him come, and it bothers her. And then she feels bad about that and crazy about that. And I just reading this made me laugh of how someone not wanting to admit something at the lengths that they will go. It just made me laugh with them. Because it's on both sides. Like, it would be different, it could be one person. But this is both of them. I'm like, gosh, y'all ain't gonna never, like, meet for a compromise. Good grief. By the time she comes out of the shower, he's already, like, he's disposing of the tissue paper because he's already came. And she asked him, did you fuck somebody else the night before? Is that why you didn't come home? He told her it's none of her business. She's like, it is my business if I'm your wife. And he's like, no. He's like, you're going to have to earn this if you want it. and he went down the list of everything he's done to keep her safe. And he's like, you keep acting like a petulant child, and all I've tried to do is keep you safe. I'm tired of it. Like, when you earn your place next to me, then I'll please you, like I'll please you. But you keep lying to me, telling me you don't like stuff, and you do like it. He's like, I don't need this shit. He's like, I got enough shit going on, and I don't need this added bullshit. And he's like, I'm going to sleep. So he turns the light off and he takes his ass to sleep. And then once she hears him snore, then she starts to cry. So the next day, Luca is already gone before she wakes up. Katerina comes over to talk with her. And she said, Luca said I could come. He felt like you'd be a good person to talk to about this stuff. And she tells, her about the wedding being moved up and how she doesn't think Franco really appreciates her as much as she originally thought he did. She thought he was going to at least treat her well. She is the former Don's daughter, but he doesn't appreciate her. He's not being respectful. She knew she wouldn't get love, but she thought she would at least get some type of respect. And then she asked if, what did she ask? She asked her if she would go to the fitting with her at Kleinfeld's. And she's like, well, I'll ask, to see. And so when she asked, Luca later on, he laughed in her face because he's like, you can't leave the penthouse. And so the next day, sure enough, the Kleinfeld woman comes in with her assistant, and they're going to do the final fitting at the penthouse. And so she was really helpful to Katerina. She does take care of her, and she does kind of feel like they can maybe be friends. It's like the more honest moment Sophia's had, with her. We switch back to Luca. He's with Franco. Franco's begging for a bachelor party in Tijuana. He says, because you can be with hookers of questionable age and high off cocaine. So I'm like, oh, so Franco really is just a piece of shit. Like, he really is. So he begs and begs, and eventually Luca's like, all right, we'll have a bachelor party for your ass. Luca calls his assistant, Carmen, and has her order sushi from the same place that our girl Sophia had ate that night. And he's like, they're going to have like a real conversation. And of course, Sophia's suspicious as hell because she's like, what game are you playing? Like, what's going on? So he tells her about the bachelor party, the issue with Franco, and he says to her, I think I shielded him from the harsh realities of this mafia life. Like, if somebody had to be taken out or tortured or anything, I did it. I wouldn't allow Franco to go through with it because I didn't want the demons that followed after for those to be things that he had to deal with. And so, if you look at it now, look at where we are, right? There's a major threat on the family. His fiance's mother just got murdered, right? And the only thing he can think about is having a bachelor party. They're not normally faithful, right? So it's not like you can't do what you want to do anyway, but you think it is so essential for you to go out of the country to do your debauchery. For what? So I'm like, he doesn't act like a really good underboss. He really doesn't. And again, I'm trying to figure out why the hell Don Rossi just didn't pick Luca to marry Katerina. I want to know why. Because this is stupid. This is an awful... If something were to happen to Luca, your underboss is Franco. And Franco don't know shit. So, something else is going on. Something else is at play. I want to figure it out. Find out so bad. Luca tells her that basically they're going to have Katarina, like, she can come, stay with her while he's away. And she asked if Anna can come, and he was like, okay, fine, she can come. Shocked her that he, agreed to it so fast. Um, but then he's looking at her. He's like, "What else?" Because he can tell there's something else she wants to ask, and she says, "Can she go back to her own room?" And she says, "It's been a week. There hasn't been a threat. Like, can I, go back to my own room tomorrow?" And he says no, because no, let me say it correctly. He wants to say no, because the truth is there is no reason for her to be there, but he just wants her in his bed. But again, nobody don't want to tell the fucking truth, you know. So he gives her the go ahead to go back to her old room. A week later, Luca and the boys wind up going for a weekend in the Dominican Republic. That was the place they settled on. All of his friends are all high up within the organization, just within with different cities. They all grew up together, so he's known these people their whole life. They didn't think it was a good time for a trip at this time, but he's the boss, so they're gonna do it. When they get down there, though, they're more and more okay with it. So there's like all these beautiful women lined up for them all, and unfortunately, our boy's still stuck on Sophia. And he initially had the idea. He's like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm fucking somebody tonight. Like, he hasn't gotten laid since their wedding night. Um, he has never gone that long without coochie since he lost his virginity. So he's like, I'm doing it, right? And yet, when the woman came over to him, he just couldn't do it. So we switch back to Sophia. Katarina's come over. She's ordered a lot of stuff. I'm sorry, Sophia has ordered a lot of stuff for Katarina, like, cupcakes and party stuff. They wind up ordering pizza, going up on the roof, and Katarina is having a ball eating pizza. The girl hasn't had pizza in so long, and she just feels free. She's really enjoying herself. But then they all have a real conversation. They kind of start asking Sophia how it was for her when she lost her virginity, because Katarina's still a virgin. So Katarina also was kind of giving her background a little bit to Anna, and kind of was saying, how even though she went off to school, she had like this strict curfew. Her virginity needed to be protected because it was a commodity. And so after that, that's when they asked Sophia how was it her first time. And she told them what she told him, which was she just wanted to get it over with. So they, of course, were worried, like, did he force you? And it was like, no. She's like, no, 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 no. It was nothing like that. But because they had to come in and see the marital bed afterwards the next morning, Katarina was like, her mother was actually trying to get Don Rossi not to do it. So the women, of course, don't like this tradition. Um, and Sophia was kind of like, well, Luca didn't like it either, so maybe that's something he'll get rid of. And Katarina's just kind of like, don't be so sure. You got to remember, he's grown up in this lifestyle, and he might not make any real changes with my father still being alive, you know? And she tells her, my father has groomed Luca. You know what I'm saying? And so even though Luca still isn't it hasn't changed fully who Luca is, because Luca doesn't like to harm people. He only will harm somebody if it's a matter of, loyalty being broken, something being done against someone. Then he'll do it, and then he's only going to do it to get what he needs from them. He doesn't enjoy torture. She even knows that her own father enjoys that type of shit. So she knows that Luca's a different breed. And as she's talking, Sophia's just kind of like, but what, like, why is everyone okay with this stuff? Like, this is bad stuff they're doing, selling drugs and, getting guns. Like, this is bad stuff. And she's like, under the impression that all they care about is just getting money. And Katarina's like, it's about loyalty and it's about respect. And that's what they uphold more than anything, are those things. And so when someone breaks that, that's when they go after people. But that's like the foundation of everything. But I get where Sophia's coming from. That may be, but we still can't negate what the hell else is going on. You know what I mean? Like, this other stuff is still happening. Katarina also explains to her, like, again, what she saw with her father and with the other men and how they treated their wives. There was never an expectation that she would have like a loving husband. She tells her, I remember your father would come over. He wouldn't speak of your mother because he wasn't allowed to, but he would speak of you. And he was so loving in the way he, talked about you. And she said, so I get why you have a different perception of how a man should treat a woman. And even though Sophia's not under the guise that, her father never cheated, you know what I mean? But she also did see some type of loving relationship between the two of both her mother and father. But I don't know. At the same time, like I said in that first review, I feel like she knew certain things could have been going on, but it's better to keep the happier memories or to look away from that doesn't fit into that perfect picture. You know what I mean? Um, but Katarina, in all honesty, she tells her, like, honestly, I think he's already fallen for you. And she tells Sophia, I think what's messing you up is that you don't want to want him, but you want him. And it's messing you up because you don't want him. And that hit it right on the head for Sophia. She didn't want to admit that, but that's been the problem. And as she's thinking about it, like, this man did everything in his power to try and protect you. Like, honestly, that's what he's done since he's met you, is try to protect you. So they were talking about, you know, the whole debauchery trip that the guys are on. Um, Katarina knows who she's marrying. She knows he's that. She hopes he won't do certain stuff, but she already knows he's going to do it. This, of course, is worrying Sophia as well, that Luca's going to screw some woman. Um, that week that she's been in her own room, she has not liked it. She misses the smell of his cologne on the sheets and his light snores in the dark. So again, both not willing to admit what's going on and making themselves suffer. So they have the rest of the evening. They drink, they eat, they have a great time. They all pass out in one of the guest rooms. She has this intense dream of Luca coming home and them fucking. And then one by one, she starts seeing all these different women pop up in bed and saying how good he is and how he likes that I swallow. And he would never come inside of me because he knew I was trying to get pregnant. And then another one saying he fucked two of us at the same time. And it's freaking her out because the whole time in the dream, he's still fucking her. But all she hears are these other women and that have had him. And all of a sudden they hear a pop and all three of the girls' heads shoots up. She came out of that dream fast. And there is a man who says, you're not getting away this time. And I'm like, he had put extra security on top of two bodyguards inside of the penthouse and somebody still got in. I'm like, no, there's a fucking mole. There's a leak. There's no way in hell that could have happened. There's a mole. Well, they say a rat. So there's a rat clearly in this organization because there's no way that man could have gotten in there. So Sophia, the guy says to her, you're not getting away this time. I'm doing it right. And then he says to Katarina, Victor has plans for you as well. She's scared. Anna hasn't said anything. They're all scared. Is it Raul or Rio? Rio comes in. Is it maybe it was Raul. I can't remember. It's like Raul and Rio. One of those are the two that were assigned inside of the actual what is it called? The internal protection. And so Rio comes, I think it's Rio, because Rio's the one that was shot. And he tries to knock the guy down, but he is able to at least unsteady the guy. And when he turns, the guy tries to point the gun at Sophia. Sophia closes her eyes because she's thinking, this is it. You know, like, there's no getting away. This is it. And then nothing. And what happened was, Raul was able to come in and he shot the guy. And she wants to go to the hospital with Rio because she's like, he like got shot because he was trying to protect me, you know, like, and they're like, you know, you can't leave this apartment, you know, this penthouse. He's not going to let you do, you know, you can't. So then they decide all three of them are going to go. And Raul is like, no one's leaving. He's like, put pressure on the wound. Other men are going to get up here to take him to the hospital, but you're not going anywhere. And then she's terrified, you know, because it's like the fact that someone got in here. She even knows clearly there's a mold, and a mole, and she feels like she's not going to be safe anywhere. We switch back to Luca. His dick, unfortunately, is still hard, thinking about Sophia. This broad comes up to him. He has his swimming trunks on, and she's trying to touch his dick. He's pushing her. He's not gonna do it. Franco comes in. He's got like 2 or 3 women with him, and he's like, you know, drunk, slurring. He's like, you know what's wrong with you? You need to fuck. You need to stop thinking about fucking Sophia and just fucking get laid, you know? So he goes in the room, fucks the girls, and then the guards rush in, and one of them was like, I need to talk to you. That man is on the plane, on the private jet within 30 minutes. He's going back to New York. He gets there. He hasn't been debriefed on everything that happened. Doesn't care. He just needs to see that she is alive. So he goes upstairs, and Raul is like, she's in your room. And the girls are in her room. And the fact that she went to his room, I think whatever part of him that could have possibly held back the truth was done for. Absolutely done for. So he walks in, and when he opens the door, he hears her say Luca, and he goes over to her. He just grabs her. He just kisses her. She kisses him back, and then he tells her, he's like, you know, no, she was like, you know, I thought you couldn't come back. I thought you would be with a bunch of women. He's like, I couldn't do it. He's like, I wanted to, but I no. He's like, I was going to get you out of my head. He's like, but I can't. He's like, I can't be with anybody else. I just want you. And he's like, I don't know if this is obsession or whatever it is, but I just know I want you. So they're kissing, taking off their clothes, and he was like, Sophia, say yes, please say yes. So we switch back to Sophia, and girl was like, fuck it, she's not finna do this bullshit. She says yes, and she keeps saying yes. So he starts fingering her, and he makes her come. He eats her pussy, makes her come again. Then he tells her, no, she tells him, I need you to fuck me. Like, I need you inside of me. And he's like, is that what you want? Is that what you want? And she's like, yes. So I like the fact that nobody's lying anymore, because I'm like, y'all need to stop the bullshit, you know? So then they have this nice hard fuck, and she realizes this is what she wants. She likes it rough. Like, and she came again, and he came inside her, and still afterwards, he was still hard. And he's like, what have you fucking done to me? He's like, you're a drug. And it's like, I can't stop. And she says, then don't. They fuck throughout the night, wake up in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning. They fuck again. They go back. And they fuck again. And then 9 o'clock rolls around. He opens the blind, and he's afraid of that she might retreat, right? It's really easy to sometimes say some things in the dark than it is in the light of day. Because now you literally see the person's face, you know? And thankfully, they didn't do that. I was very proud of both of them. He was like, when they told me that you had almost been killed, the first thought was to get back to you. He was like, I wanted to make sure you were safe. And he never tells her he loves her. They have this whole discussion, the type of marriage they'll have. She, of course, is worried that, he's going to be fucking other people. And she's like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want to be worried about that type of stuff. And he pledges his fidelity to her. And he says, I don't know if I can give you anything else. Like, I wasn't made to love. But I'm just like, you already in love or whatever. Because, I mean, complete devotion. What the fuck you think that is? So, I think being that he's never felt it, I think it's either two things. It's either because he's never felt it, he's not aware of what it is. Or he knows what it is because it feels so different, but he's not ready to admit that that's what it is for himself. It's either one of the two. Um, they're gonna actually be a couple. She's actually gonna be in his bed every night. She's like, we'll talk more, argue less. They're really gonna give this a try. He tells her how she deserves better than me. He's like, I know this isn't what you signed up for, but pretty much he makes a promise like he's gonna do everything in his power to protect her. He's gonna go talk to Victor again. Um, and I'm like, okay, well, here we go. Sophia goes down, sees the girls, they're eating breakfast. Katerina, of course, is like, did Franco come back too? And she's like, no. But, Luca sent the jet back for the guys to come on back today. And she can see the sadness in Katerina's face. And she's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, it's okay. I know what type of dude he was before I even agreed to marry him. She's like, I was just kind of hoping he would be just a little different. So then Luca comes in, and before he came in, she did admit to the girls. They knew she had been fucking because she had been screaming when she was coming, so they knew she was fucking, you know. Um, and she was blushing as well. And Luca comes in and he apologizes to the ladies for what happened. And Anna flipped out on him. She's like, no, it's not okay. Her marrying you was supposed to keep her safe. And she almost got shot last night. She's like, maybe, you're probably, just because you got your dick sucked down wherever you were, and then you come here and you fuck her all night, she was going off. And he said, let me talk to you in private. Of course, Sophia tried to intervene. He's like, no, 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 it's okay. We're just going to have a conversation. She doesn't find out what he tells her. He never says. But Anne leaves. He gets a car for her. She leaves. Katerina leaves. And he has to go. So she winds up falling asleep in their bed. And she has a dream that she's being tied up. Men are coming after her with guns. And then it switches to her being fucked by Luca. So she wakes up. There's a box on the bed. Inside there's a beautiful Alexander red dress. And it's really gorgeous. And she's like, oh my gosh, it's absolutely beautiful. And there's a note from Luca saying, I know we're already married, but we haven't even gone on a first date. So meet me on the roof at the pool, by the pool at 9 o'clock sharp. So she, of course, has all these thoughts going through her head because, he had told her he couldn't love her. But, I mean, he did pledge his fidelity to her. So I'm like, what other stuff you want? He ain't gonna be fucking nobody else. He promised to be kinder to her. I mean, what else we doing? I you know what I mean? Like, what else you need him to say? I think she wants to hear "I love you" for sure. Um, but again, I think even on both sides, I think they both know what they feel. It's just kind of not wanting to fully admit that, especially when you've only known someone for so long. Because that is strongly, let's be very clear, this is very much, you know, um, inspired by lust. All of these feelings. Sophia, gets ready. She's out there. Her mouth drops. It's absolutely beautiful. He's transformed into this beautiful romantic setting, and she's just stunned. So he knew of her dreams of going to Paris and stuff, and so he tried to at least bring Paris to her. So she, of course, is incredibly moved by this, and she does reveal that she's never. No, he reveals he's never been on a date, and she's been on a couple dates, but nothing too serious. So they're like exploring this thing together. So he had the chef do like a tasting menu. Food was amazing, great desserts. And then he puts the white napkin over her lap and he starts fingering her. And the server comes over and he's like, is there anything else I can get you? And he asks for some wine. And she's starting to freak out a little bit because she's like, he's not going to stop. Like, he's going to sit here and make me come in front of this man. And she knows she can't scream out. So he does exactly that. When the server comes, he flicks over her clit and makes her come, and she just bites down on her bottom lip, trying to control this orgasm. And so then he tells the server, Raul will, give you your tip or whatever. And the guy leaves. And that's when Luca tells her to pull her dress up. And she does it all slowly. And he is just loving it. And he says, I want to see your pussy. And so she starts rubbing herself, opens it up for him. And he is so incredibly hard. He whips it out and he tells her, come and sit on my dick. I need to be inside of you. And so that's what she does. So then we switch back to Luca's POV. She's a little awkward because clearly she never rode a dick, right? So, but she still feels good to him. And it doesn't even matter. They're still fucking. He rubs her clit while he fucks her. They both come. He's never really cared about a woman's satisfaction. It's just really different for him because that's not his normal. He could please a woman, but that's like not his main thing. His main thing is to like get himself off to make him happy. But he cares about her satisfaction. So he carries her upstairs to the bedroom, to the shower. They run a bath. He goes and gets a gift for her. It's a bracelet with like yellow diamonds in it. She's like, I don't deserve it. I haven't earned it. He's like, you don't have to do anything for me to give you something. Basically, let's forget all the bullshit we said before. Let's start fresh. And so then they fuck again in the tub. So then a few days later, he meets up with Victor in Central Park and they have a conversation. And Victor still wants Katerina. Like, he don't want nothing else. He wants Katerina. He also doesn't like the fact that, everyone looks at the Russians like they're brutal dogs. And the Italians want to appear so sophisticated. And he's like, y'all do the same shit, just differently. He's like, we're just honest about it, whereas you all hide it. And he tells him, I can't give you Katerina, And he says, he knows about him moving up the wedding date. And what he's going to do is kill him and Franco. And then fuck both Katerina and Sophia in front of their dead corpse. I said, I'm done. That's a whole nother level of psychotic crazy. Oh my gosh. So then Victor leaves because he's like, there's nothing else to talk about. You keep talking about peace, but you're not going to give me something for peace. There's nothing to talk about. So it looks like clearly there's about to be a war. The wedding occurs. Raul tells Luca there's a threat. He goes off with Raul, comes back, lets him know the reception hall has been destroyed. The service people that have been there were held at gunpoint. Not Luca. Katerina and Franco are going to stay at the Rossi house tonight. It's going to be heavily guarded. He's like, I'm sorry, you didn't get your proper wedding night. And she's like, it's fine. The important part's done, but they're not going to stop, And he's like, I'm going to stop him, So Sophia and him go back to the penthouse. He looks so exhausted. Everything is just coming to a head. And she decided she wanted to do something special for him. So when he sends her upstairs, she goes to get the white baby doll lingerie to put on for him to maybe redo their wedding night. She puts it on. He loves it. They have a nice hard fuck, and then he tells her like he's gonna be dealing with a lot of bravado situation over the next few days. She might not see him, but he tells her, "Promise me you're gonna stay in this house." She says, "Okay, I will." He tells her, if you want to see Katerina, she just needs to come over here. She says, fine, I promise. Well, then Katerina comes over the next day, and it's, well, because it's the next day after the wedding night, we find out that the night was just okay. There's nothing to run home and tell anybody about with Franco. She says he was at least gentle, but it wasn't what she was expecting. Her father's gonna get discharged in a couple days, and so she's gonna go. She's gonna have to watch after him, and she's like, I gotta go to the hospital, talk to the doctor. Would you come with me? And Sophia's like, I told Luca I wouldn't leave, and she says, but it's for me. It should be okay. She's like, I won't say anything. She's like, I just can't do this by myself. Here's my thing. Why the fuck you just could call your doctor over the phone? Call the doctor over the phone. I'm just saying. It's the same conversation. He can email you any information you need. It's the same thing. So I was like, I don't know, feels very SETI up-ish to me. So she asks and asks, and so eventually Sophia caves. She leaves, goes to the hospital, and then she leaves out of the room and goes with the nurse to go talk with the doctor. And when she's in the room with Rossi, he tells her to, come to him. And she doesn't do it, and he says, I'm still your elder. You do what I say, come over here. And so then he tells her, you and that Russian bitch of a mother, this is all your fault. He tells her Victor wanted to put a baby in you so that he could finish and take what he could from the Italian family. So she didn't know Victor wanted to marry her. And she's like, that's not true. He's like, yes, it is. But Luca got to you first. And now everything's falling apart because of you. So he goes to grab her, and she tries to get out of his way, but he snatches her necklace, and he's trying to get out of the bed, and the alarms are going off, I'm sorry. And so then Catherine and the nurse come in, and he's like acting as if she was being mean to him. And then he starts acting delusional, like, who is she? She needs to get out of here. And she winds up throwing up. And then she starts thinking, oh shit. The first couple days they started fucking, they were not using protection. Then they started using it. And then the previous night they hadn't used it. And she's like doing calculations in her head, and she's a week and a half late. And she knows the stipulation in that contract that she signed. And she's kind of terrified now, you know? But again, what I want to find out, why the fuck can Luca not have children? Why was that a stipulation in Luca's, like he couldn't have kids? It would make sense for Luca and Katerina get together, have a fucking kid. That makes sense. This other stuff does not make sense. We switch back to Luca. He's been torturing Victor's men. Can't get anything out of him except for that Sophia is at the center of this. And Katerina is just a trophy at this point. And he realizes he needs to distance himself from Sophia. It confuses him. It makes it harder for him to do his job. Because if anything's happened to her, he really can't bear it at this point. So when he goes home, he does the whole rough thing. He's pissed off. He found out she left. And he's like, I told you not to disobey me. And she just can't, say anything. She's like, she asked me to go with her, this and that. And he's like, I don't want to hear it. He pulls her over his lap, starts fingering her. And then they fuck, but it's not like a good hard fuck. Like, it's like a hard fuck. She's into it, but he wouldn't let her come. So when he was about to come, he like pulled out and like nutted all on her face, breasts, everything. And then he wouldn't look at her. He just walked away. And he felt awful afterwards, but he's like, we can take pleasure from each other is how he feels they can do, but they can't do anything else, So he left, and he goes and talks with Father Donahue, tells him about what's going on, and Father Donahue is like, saying that Sophia's family history is the key to all of this. And he says, but it's not my place to tell. And he's like, you need to talk to your wife. And he's like, you're not going to tell me, even though you know everything that's going on. You're still not going to tell me. He's like, I can't. You're going to need your wife, and you need to depend on each other. You need to be a team so that you can face what's coming. And Luca decides he's not going home tonight. We switch back to Sophia. She's bought a test, but she hasn't taken it. She knows she's pregnant. She's tired all the time. She's throwing up. The dates match up. She knows she was fucking raw, so she knows she's pregnant. However, that contract states that she can't have a kid, and even if she does get pregnant, she's either got to terminate it, or if she decides to have it, Luca does not have to accept paternity, and he could just throw her away, but he does have to like give her money, financially take care of her. And after the way he previously acted the night before, she's just kind of like, you know, he's going to stick to that contract, and she wants to keep her baby. So she remembered what Father Donahue told her: if you ever need help, I'll help you. So she saw the code that Katerina put in for the elevator. She puts it in. It works. She runs. She gets to Father Donahue. She tells him everything. And he says, of course, are you sure? And she says, yes, I have to protect my baby. And so he says, okay, I'll help you. It'll take some time to get a fake name, passport, and everything. And then his eyes look like they bulge out. Someone smacks him in the back of the head. He passes out in the pew. And then someone comes up behind and grabs her. She's trying to fight, but they've got her. And however, the voice that says "shut up, bitch," it's not a Russian accent. It is an Italian accent. So now she's trying to figure out what the hell, like who grabbed her, what's going on, because of course they had on a ski mask, she couldn't see him. So then they stick her with, something to knock her out, and everything is starting to fade to black, and she is so worried. She's like, oh my gosh. She wants to know if her baby's going to be okay, and that is how it ends. So the last book in the series, where we get all of our answers, I hope, is called Ruthless Promise. And so we're going to dive into that one next week. What did you all think of this? What are your theories? Let me know. Drop down in the comment section. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available, and the links are available down in the description section below. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you share. I truly do appreciate you all. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.